Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakabhatato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dwijagaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gururai Pushpavanto Chitro Sando Tamunudo Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhaya Charana Sako Sukado Paramanando Sundaro Subala Priyo Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchan Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Gaudiya Vaishnava Guru Parampara Ki Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premanande. So good evening everyone. Excuse me. So we're going to continue discussion of the 18th chapter of the 10th canto, which is about the slaying of Pralambasur, which would be next class if we have one, or if we proceed that far, we may. We'll see. We do that or questions and answers. I'm not sure, but it would be nice. Anyway, we're in the middle of the chapter. And this is at the end of the chapter, and it's describing the environment of Krishna's adolescent Sakyarasa Leelas, as we know. Now, what I'm going to do tonight is what I have been doing, but it's worth explaining. Which I haven't yet. And that is what I'm reading from are some renderings of some verses of the Bhagavatam, as we've heard. I think we did 3 of them today. And prior to that, in the first day, we went over 1, I think, 1 or 2, I forget. 3, I think. No, 1, I can't recall. Oh, 1, we did 1, right, from the 15th chapter. And so this is from a book that I'm writing, which is based on a book that I wrote, that is based on a book that was written a long time ago called the Srimad Bhagavatam. So what I mean by that is there's a section of a book that I wrote called Sakya, that's a Circle of Friends, right? That's in the process of being published. And part of it deals with the Prakat-lila. Book's divided into 4 sections, actually. The 2 upper halves of the circumference of a circle. First being the beginning, which deals with the tattva, philosophical and theological underpinnings of the feelings of Sakyarasa. What is Sakyarasa, for example? A little bit of what its history has been in Gaudiya Sampradaya, and so on and so forth, its nature. So the idea here is, of course, that the tattva being compared to the circumference means that which is outside of the tattva, it may be friendly, it may be whatever, thought of in one way or another, but it's not the fraternal love that we're talking about that falls within the parameters, understand, of the circle. So the circumference divides any other kind of idea of friendly love from that which is the circle is centered on and consists of, right? And there are different types of fraternal love in India. I go through that a little bit in the text, in the circumference, the upper part. But I mentioned the upper part because there's a lower half too, and that comes at the end of the book, which is some tattva that reflects back on some of the things that have been said, or elaborates on some of the things that have been said earlier. In a modern book, it would be called an appendix. Several chapters there. I'm just giving you an overview. It's interesting, and so using the same metaphor, if you will, of a circle. Given the book's title, Circle of Friends, we move from a radius from a circumference into the radius. The radius is that space that lies between the center and the circumference. And in that section of the book, we enter into the Kishora-Lila, as it's described in the Bhagavatam, right? In terms of the Sakura center, as I refer to it, of the Bhagavatam. It's a retelling of that material with some originality, which we would hope we'd find there as well. And from there, we enter into the center, which is the Kishora-Lila. And we've been reading about that in the morning, right? So that's the book I wrote. Now, this is the book I'm writing that I have been reading from. And that is, I'm retelling the Kishora-Lila section in a very short, kind of and poetic way, without going into a lot of prose and explanation and elaborating and so forth, in a little more cryptic. So I have my own renderings of certain verses in the Bhagavatam, which will be in the book, and then I have my own verses as well. There are the original verses that bring it all together. Anyway, it's a work in progress. But I started this a little while ago, not so long ago, and that's what we've been reading from in these sessions. My renderings of particular verses of the Bhagavatam. You follow? So it's kind of a shorthand version of the Kishora-Lila. It's kind of a pocket, edition that you can keep with you and reflect through it on these wonderful and playful life of Ram and Krishna. So we begin tonight with an original verse, and a couple of them, which then will be followed by another rendering of 3 or 4 verses from the text itself, which will be followed by a couple of original verses and a reference to another Purana. That's basically where we'll hopefully end up tonight. The last part of this particular section of the book would be then the story of Pralambasura, which it flows into. Are you with me? Okay. So I thought it was worth explaining. So today's verse, and again, this is not a verse of the Bhagavatam, but it is a verse of the Bhagavatam too, in another sense. It's what's being said there, what's being drawn out from it. So where we left off, of course, was that, just to review quickly, first we heard that Krishna was returning after the slaying of Dinakasura, and chronologically speaking, after the Kali-Lila had also passed by. We heard him turn into the town, and of course he's turning into an adolescent at the same time, and he sees the gopis, and Purvarag is there, and so forth, right? And then we come to the 18th chapter, which we started with, I think this must have been this morning, I guess. And again, Krishna's returning. So this is a recurring returning is throughout the Bhagavatam, but excuse me. This time he's returning. It's the summer. So we heard about that. And I mentioned to you this morning that, interestingly, after a verse about, or two about, or three about returning, that includes that that ends with the third verse, some insight about the nature of the seasons, the magical nature of the seasons in Braj. Yeah, just three verses. We introduced that there's three that describe some of the wonders. And again, I mentioned this is very important, I think, or interesting, that just from something like this, a couple of verses, a whole chapters written by, for example, Krishnadas Kaviraj and Govindra Lilamrita about the different seasons and the wonders of them. It's typical there. And, on a typical Sunday, for example, he depicts Subal and Madhu Mangal taking Radha and Krishna on a tour at midday, part of the midday pastime, through the different seasons and speaking of their virtues and so on and so forth. So they're happening all at once, you understand? You can go tour the seasons. You go into this room and it's summer, and then this room and it's winter, and so forth. And winter can turn into summer if it serves the Leela's necessity at the moment. It's magical. And behind this, of course, is the magical figure of Vrindadevi, who was introduced, I think, in our discussion this morning, right? Helper of Krishna. Forest nymph, a gopi who, by all accounts, it would appear, other than Rupa Goswami's Radha Krishna Gaunadesh Deepika, lives in the forest. He says a little something else about it, but it's never played out anywhere in any Leela that she has a parent somewhere, and other than just being a magical nymph of the forest who appears from time to time as is required for the Leela, and behind all the workings of all the animals, the flora and the fauna, of all the different forests, all the seasons, and so on and so forth. An example is there in such a forest, you will find a tree, let's say a mango tree. And on the one branch of the tree, you'll find leaves. You'll find, let's say, a branch coming out like this. So one branch will come with leaves, one will come with blossoms, flowers. One will come with unripened fruit, and one will come with ripe fruit, all on the same branch, on the same tree, all at the same time. As soon as the grass is eaten by the cows, it grows again. So this is a very magical place. And really, to be honest with you, the world is a magical place that we live in, but we don't know it. We were talking earlier, Yamanuja and I, about poetry. And how poetry, I often say that poetry is the best language to discuss these things, because in poetry, I often say, well, for example, the moon can have wings and fly across the sky. It can, in poetry, through poetry, we expand the natural world so that it's a better fit for us who are not natural. We're supernatural. People ask, have you ever, they don't believe in God. Well, that's okay, but do they believe in consciousness? Well, that's kind of a stupid question. But then this question is, well, will you define it? So we define it in a particular way that makes it supernatural, that it transcends the limits of time and space and so forth. So we are a unit of that stuff. And we don't fit within the constraints of what we picture as the physical world. Um, and so when we describe, and we're trying to fit, we're trying to always make the world bigger, more accommodating, more loving than it appears to be, because that would be a better fit for us, right? Uh, but it's kind of, there's the objective world and there's the subjective world, right? But we only have a subjective experience of what is the objective world. I've mentioned that. And that's an interesting point. But the poetry, and when we speak about the world with poetry, we're really trying to make it bigger so that it's a fit for us, right? Um, and when we were talking about poetry and how someone may, let's say, write a poem or write a song, and they have a meaning for the song. Now the question comes: did the man write the song, or did the song write her? Did the song use her to express itself, and leave with the quote unquote songwriter a certain meaning, which is only one of the many, many, many meanings that can be drawn from those words, forever and ever and ever and ever. So it's an interesting way to start to think about the world, that makes it less physical and more like what we're like, if you will. There are physical laws that we could point to and so forth, or that we observe, but that's only like a very flat way of talking about what's what the world is. So much for poetry. It's an appropriate language to try to talk about God, to talk about the soul, to talk about anything. It's a meta language, right? It's not a lesser language. It's a meta language. So I don't know how we got there, but yeah. So it's a magical place, Vrindavan, and so we turn to. So we heard some descriptions of the forest there, of the seasons, and so tonight's verse, we begin. As I said, that last discussion ended with the fact, and I gave you a hint where we're going, that while it was about entering into Braj and the magical nature of Braj in the forests and so on and so forth, how it's just there to facilitate the play of Krishna. Um, he's leading them at the forest, and the forest leading Krishna back and forth. Again, I mean, it's a magical just to go explore anywhere, right? That you haven't been before. What to speak of the Vrindavan, the Braj forests, as we're talking about them. The cowherd boys, they go into these forests and they get in there and they make a vow every single day. They look at one another and make a vow: we're never going home. And every day they go home. And then every day they make the same: we're never going, we never return from here. And this is where it's all happening, whether it's Takiras or Madhuriras, it's all in the forests, right? Magical forest of Braj. But having described the magical forest of Braj and how the summer the seasons, how the summer turns into like spring-like and so forth, suddenly the Bhagavatam's next verse is about Krishna and the cowherd boys entering into the forest. They just came out and they're just going right back in. So in one sense, the purpose of this is to emphasize that how sportful is the nature of the summer season, which is the season under discussion. It's you come in, you return at the festival, and they're coming. There's a festival, they're heading back out again immediately. So to that we go. But in a blink of an eye, the brothers returned to the forest as their friends woke from their night's dreams in a realm. You have to forgive me for this when I repeat myself, where the dreams one dares to dream really do come true. Dreams of joking and frolicking from one forest to another, rolling acrobatically on the forest floor in sportive games of their own imagination, dancing, singing, and performing for the pleasure of Braja's Nataraj. This was their only thought. Kotavani chutachute bhane khai lutoputi, which to which the Sudha Sadhaka, without hesitation, fearlessly adds in ecstasy, Se din kobe hobe more. Se din kobe hobe more. So these are um, obvious references to one very prominent Saka who's shared his heart's ambition with us and his vision of what this forest play is like. And to him we defer Om Vishnupad Shri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who liked to include his God, well, how we say, father given, family given name, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Abhay Charan, at whose feet Krishna, one becomes fearless. And he was very fearless, which I also liken the fearlessness, if you will, to the very spirit of the cowherd boys. That will come up in this discussion. As it corresponds largely, you could say, with the Tatastha Lakshan, or a marginal characteristic of pranay that is so central to Sakirasa. Lack of hesitation, no, no, no fear of God, we could say that for sure. No fear of God in their hearts, in his heart. Right? So it's taken from Prabhupada's prayer on the Jaladutta, which is a very beautiful prayer to what does he say? To is that what he says? Is that Is that the title he gives? Yeah, he has another one too. But anyway, yeah. So he, the first half of Prabhupada's verses, of course, there's a refrain that's very telling. You know this about it, I'm sure. He prays that to Krishna, my dear friend, Krishna tava punya hobe bhai. What does he say? No, Krishna tava punya hobe bhai bhai. Bhai. E punya koribe chobe Radha Rani Kushi Hobe. Dhruva Ati Boli Tomatai. So he says that, my dear friend, by Krishna, it's a sure thing. It's there's no doubt about it. It's fixed for eternity, like the pole star that's said to sort of stay in one place while others orbit around it. That if Radharani is pleased with you, well, then your life will be successful. Something like that. Well, that's a very bold statement to make, and it's something that would certainly get Krishna's ear. Well, what is that? I mean, well, you know that about me. And having gotten Krishna's attention, of course, he says, my guru, who is the Srishadanta Saraswati, Priyati, my guru, who is internally, he doesn't say this, but internally the position of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is, as he himself told, Nayana Mani Manjari. He is a handmaiden of Radha. So because my guru is a handmaiden of Radha, who's one with Radha in desire, therefore she has asked me to do something, and if you please her, that'll be pleasing Radha, and then your life will become successful. So this is a very extraordinary address to his friend, not written to be published for public consumption, but our business is to make it public consumption, to celebrate such an insight that's shared from the depths of the heart of our guru. And of course, he goes on and then explains to Krishna what that request of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is. And in the context of doing that, he very much expresses the mood of a Sharanagata. This is central to, as I was mentioning earlier today, to some of the devotees to sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is about Sharanagati, Shraddha and Sharanagati. Hmm? Bhava bhakti, by contrast, is about longing. Hmm? That's why Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, first deserve, then desire. That was his idea. Now you have to have a little desire in the beginning, and Prabhupada would say the same thing, of course. Hmm? Hmm? But it would be unbecoming to long for something by voice without having corresponding action in place. I'll give an example. If you want to go to India and you pester me, and I'm going to say to you, well, have you got a ticket? Do you have any money? Do you have a passport? Yeah, well, I just want to go to India. It's not. Let's talk about get a job. No, I want to go to India. I know. Well, get a job, get some money, then you can get a ticket, get a visa, do all these things. Then you can go to India. You can't go to India just thinking about it. You won't get dysentery by that. You have to go there. I guess that was my experience over the years. I haven't gone in a while, but among other things, obviously. Bharat ki jai. Bharat Bhumi. Such a special place. So, so Prabhupada's prayer, yeah. So Prabhupada, the second half of his prayer, then after this Sharanagati, then he starts to long. And his Sharanagati is how he's expressing himself. Taking the order of Bhakti Siddhanta on his head, it's his life and soul at the age of 70 to cross the ocean when you don't know what's going on the other side. You hear different things. You read the tracts from the Christian missionaries that you find in the tea houses that tells you this is what's going on over there. And there was no internet, no television. There was radio, but they weren't transistor. I mean, you know what a transistor radio is, probably. That was coming around in my time. There were no radios that everybody had, a pocket radio or anything like that. So, and he's, Bengali, sadhu, living in Vrindavan. The newspapers of India are all full of, what do we do now? The new nation, right? So to drop out of all of that and try to go to the United States and on a cargo boat. So this is an extraordinary story. I mean, you can't really, you can't say enough about it. That there's a chapter in the Gaudiya Vaishnavism that is unparalleled. There are others that are unparalleled in their own ways, but this is certainly one of them. And we are all, coming in the wake of that. We are the tender fruits of that. Fruits and flowers of that. So in that second half, he longs to, as if to say, here's my Sharanagati. I'm dedicating myself in Guru Seva to this, what he expected of me, which Prabhupada really exaggerates. He says, my Guru Maharaj ordered me, to write books and preach and in English and so forth. And when it really had happened, he had written to Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta and said, Guru Maharaj, I'm living as a household, I don't have any service. If you could give me any service, I would be honored. And Saraswati Thakur said, it would be good if you could, what did it say, write books in English or something like that. He kind of like he made a suggestion. And Prabhupada took it like, this is an order from my guru. He's ordered me. This is one order. I'll make this the center of my whole practice, and then my perfection will come from that. And that's what he did. He was very focused on that, and so he deserved to have his desire, then his longing that is expressed in the second half of the poem, to enter into Braj-Lila with Krishna and sport in the forest with him, herd cows all throughout the day. Kotavani, from van to van, from forest to Kotavani chuta chute. Banikai lutputi, like falling on the ground, somersaults acrobatically, joking, frolicking, rambling here, through everywhere, through all the groves and hills and forests and across the rivers and so forth throughout the day. He makes this is his petition, and he says, "Say Dean Kobe Hobe more. When will that day be mine?" Tomara melane by abar se shukapai gocharane guri din bor kota bani chuti bane kai lutuputi. So this is how the cowards themselves are thinking. This is their dream all night long. When we're going back into go from forest to forest and perform all these playful, sportive pastimes with Krishna. And then what we've said here in this verse tonight is that, and the pure sadhaka who has ruchi, ruchi means shuddha, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam bha. There's a higher end of sadhana bhakti. Ruchi and then asakti. In ruchi, then one has no desire for anything but bhakti. At that point, within the context of sadhana, some longing will start. I mean, longing can be there early. So I would like to go there, yeah, but who am I? And we may think, and we may hesitate. Now the hesitations are fading, and without hesitation, Satya Sudashaka Sadhaka will say, as Prabhupada did, Sayadin Kabhihabamor. When will that day be mine? This is what I'm about. This is my ideal. And that, given the background of that, as I say, that's very beautiful. That's very becoming. It's not unbecoming or inappropriate, out of place. Who are you to think like that, and so forth? Of course, we should think like that in the job. That's what I want. I mean, I know I'm not qualified. I want that, but now let me get busy. What may be best to help what's suitable and appropriate for me to do now that I may attain it. I should think Krishna, for example, with regard to Sakiras, Krishna is offering himself, God in the form of Krishna is offering himself as a friend in every sense that the word friend, fraternal love means in this world. We completely, even in an extended or exaggerated sense. I mean, it's hard to find friends as fast, they call them fast friends in English, as Krishna and his friends. It's said by others that if when you leave this world, if you can have as many friends as you can have on fingers on one hand, you're doing good. It's hard to come by, even in this world. Who's your friend? You don't always know, right? But Krishna, you can know. If you say, I've heard this opportunity has come to me. Why? I cannot say. But I don't need a reason why. But I shouldn't question whether the opportunity is coming to me or not. It is coming to me. I see it in Prabhupada, for example. So and I have connection with him. So opportunity has come to me. So no reason to question it. So yeah, I will think like this. I will think Krishna is my friend, and then in a simple way, I will proceed in my life like that, and gradually, then all that means I'll learn about, and I'll grow and practice and so forth, and enter into a friendship that's fast and everlasting. So. And, I mean, we're talking about Sakirasa, and this applies to other rasas as well. So to continue, right? So the siddhas, Krishna's friends, this is how they're thinking. And Prabhupada is expressing the same. Kottabani tutuchidi bani kailutu puti. But as a sadhaka, now stepping outside, away from the ragatmikas themselves, when we add say din kobe more, when can that day be mine? When can I that day that never ends? Right? A life in the day of Krishna. That's the apricot lila. It just goes on and on, day after day after day. It's a law. Yeah. It's 24-hour service. This is the extraordinary feature of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And sakhas are also involved in that, even by sleeping in their dreams about Krishna. So to continue, next verse, it's an original also. Friends know no boundaries that separate themselves from one another. Thus, as sakhas performed for Ram and Krishna, the two brothers joined in and performed for their friends in the arts of dancing. In the previous verse, Krishna was referred to as Brajas Natavar. So they were rolling acrobatically on the forest floor, performing for the pleasure of Krishna's Natavar, best of dancers. Krishna's the best acrobat, the best actor, best dancer, Krishna. Singing, dancing, composing songs with their own imagination and so forth. This is what they're doing, right? Krishna's the Natavar is referred to in this verse. But of course, as we know, that's his friends will pull him aside and say, yeah, well, remember, you're the Natavar, you're the best dancer, but we know that you're the best student in the dancing school of Radha's Prem. And he will like to remember that and stay humble. So they're friends, keep you honest and bring you back down to the ground, so to speak. So this is their role. And so for friends, here the point is, friends know no boundaries, right? That separate themselves from one another. Therefore, thus, as sadhakas performed for Ram and Krishna, the two brothers jumped up, joined in, and they began to perform for the pleasure of their friends, praising their pal's performance. Sadhu, sadhu, the Bhagavatam says. Sadhu, sadhu. It means well done, very good, wow. And in the Bhagavatam verse that this is drawn from, it's not a translation, it's an original verse of my own, but it's based on the Bhagavatam. There's a Bhagavatam verse where Sukadev, here in this chapter, he describes this. And he's in the context of doing so, he says, "O Raj." Well, nothing, what to make of that. "O Raj," it means I'm telling you something that's happening with these coward boys, and I grab out and you say, "Oh, Maharaj." Savanidhi, listen, listen to what's happening. What I'm envisioning, I'm just taken by it. So he's expresses, wow, amazing himself. He's kind of joining, and they're saying, the coward boys are saying, "Sadhu, sadhu, nice going, Krishna. Wow, that's pretty good, Balaram." And he's going, wow. The whole thing is wow. It's amazing, extraordinary, super Aishwarya. So we were mentioning earlier today. He's amazed. This is one of the number of instances within the Sakya Center that Sukadev really gets taken by these the exploits of Krishna and his friends. So friends know no boundaries from one another. Sakhas performed for Ram and Krishna, and similarly the two brothers joined and performed for their friends, praising their pal's performance. Sadhu, sadhu, and seeing this in his mind's eye, well, here it comes, the sage Sukha in Sadhaka Deha exclaimed to the Raj, "Just see their pranay. Krishna Seve Krishna Korai. Apono Sevan. Did I pronounce it good enough for you? Krishna Seve, Krishna Korai, Apana Sevan. Apana Sevan. So, in his mind's eye, we just talked about it, the meditative eyes, Sukadeva is seeing all of this, and he exclaims to the Raj, and I put it in this terms, just see the Pranay. Pranay is very central to Sakiras. We just mentioned it a little bit earlier, right? And it has its marginal characteristics and it has its principal characteristics, Tatastha Lakshan, Sarup Lakshan. And its Tatastha Lakshan is this, what's being described here, that there's no boundaries between friends, right? There's no apprehension. There's no, is it okay? Can I come in? Just in, you're out. You're living together. There's no like, can I come in? You can have a minute. That doesn't happen. Thank you. No, there's no thank you, please. That doesn't happen. It's it's like two souls have become one. They have two different bodies. That's all. And they trade off living in either one, practically. Like the cowherds we've described before in their picnic. They take the foods that have been brought for the picnic. They'll taste something. If it's they like that the most, they'll take it and put it on Krishna's tongue. If they like it second best, they'll put it on another cowherd's tongue. It's third best, then they'll take it on their tongue. And everybody has different tastes, so everybody tastes everything, and everything is the best. But the point is here that as I said, these sarups, these forms of the cowherds, and all of the associates of Krishna are extensions of Krishna's own form, his own senses. He just like Rupa Goswami says, oh my God, I've got a problem. This two syllables, Krishna, Tunde, Tundavali, he said they are so full of nectar that when they dance on my tongue and enter my ear, enter my heart through my ears and dance therein in the courtyard of my heart, all of my senses, which are typically focused outwardly, turn inward. And then realizing all the nectar that's in these two syllables, I have to pray for more ears, thousands of ears and thousands of tongues to try to be able to take advantage of this. Sometimes I've compared this to the guru's problem. She is chanting Krishna Nam and tasting that, and he, like Prabhupada, need to share it with people. Try this. He said he gave out the holy name, and he was like making an experiment, see what would happen. He needed, Bodhayantas Parasparam Tusha. This is Ananya Bhakti. So discussing with one another, you have to. What does Bhagavatam say? What is that Ayurvedic term? Satam prasanga. Mama virya samvido. Satam prasanga, an association of satam, honest people, sincere people, right? Satam, Mama Vira Samvido, my topics about me, which are just virtuous, Punya Shravana Kirtana, this is their nature. Satam Prasanga, Mama Vira Samvido, Bhavanti Hrit Karna, Rasayana, it's the Ayurvedic, Rasayana Kata. Oh, this becomes a rejuvenating elixir, these names. And Rasayana Kata, Chadjoshana Dashpapavarga Vartmani, Shradharati Bhakti Anukramishati Ankram, step by step, I go through these different stages from Shraddha to Rati to Bhava, from beginning, initial faith to Bhav. In other words, it's saying when I get in, by coming in touch with the Satam Prasanga, this association where this goes on, then, it's contagious. And I contact this I get this rasayana, and such is the result. So Gyan, bhakti, by contrast to Gyan is, we progress in Gyan by vairagya. Knowledge is the realization, let's say the understanding, followed by the realization that if I am in pursuit of enduring happiness, which I am, it will not come in relation to things that don't endure. Oh, it's pretty hard to get around. Okay, well, I'm looking for enduring happiness, but I'm looking for it in things that themselves don't endure. But I endure. I have that sense that I endure. Well, I should look within myself. And if I look within myself, I find that, well, I'm subjective. I'm not objective. I'm consciousness. I'm not matter. I'm an experiencer, not the experienced. But still, I'm a small experiencer. So I get to sometimes get overshadowed by my matter, which is impossible. Jiva Goswami said that's impossible for the Atma to be covered by matter. But it's done by Krishna. It happens. It's inconceivable. That's another whole long discussion. But because we are more than matter, we matter. And we make matter matter. It wouldn't matter without us. Still, as a matter of fact, we get covered over by matter. So we're conscious, but we're small. And we need to be connected with our source, which is big, right? So when we look within ourselves, we have to look deep within ourselves. We look for our source, right? Brahma was looking for his source. So this is Swami Bhagavan. So anyway, we do that. In Gyan, we come to the conclusion, well, okay, I can't pursue enduring happiness in relation to things that don't endure. So that means knowledge corresponds with what? Vairagya, detachment. I'm going to detach myself from the ignorance of being attached to things that don't endure in the pursuit of enduring happiness. Well, that's just like kind of an insanity we're all, suffering from. So in Gyan, there's a method. There's an anga of Gyan called vairagya that is cultivated. It's a means, right, to an ends. You get the theoretical knowledge, and now you got to put it in practice. So go stand in the Jamuna at Jamunotri at midnight in Magh, month of Magh. I'm freezing cold up there, I can tell you. Oh, my God. And because, well, Krishna himself says it in the Gita, right? What does he say? Tam Statikshash for Bharata. Agamapainu, just Tam Statikshash for Bharata. Sukha Dukkha, happiness, sadness, hot, cold. These are all, this is all going on between your ears. That's where it's happening. It's not happening otherwise. Pain is not in the body. It's all in the mind. That's a fact. You can't get away from that. Experience occurs in the mind. It's occurring in the mind. Of course, the mind, in order to be as wonderful as it is, has to be turned on by consciousness itself. That's why I said the other day, God's already created a material feeling thing. They want to create through artificial intelligence a feeling, whatever being, right? A robot that feels. Right? God's already done it. Our subtle body, that's what it is. Of course, it just like those who try to do that, if they could be successful, which I doubt, um, in artificial intelligence, they're creating that. So someone's also done that in a bigger way, right? And that's God, right? So anyway, in Gyan, then vairagya is a practice. It's part of the sadhana, but it's not an anga of bhakti. Hmm? Extraordinarily, it's just the opposite. In bhakti, we progress by attachment, but attachment to Krishna, right? And to Krishna's devotees, and to gatherings like this where we can come and talk about things that really are important to us. We think it's important to get to work, to pay the bills, and so, and but I'm telling you, believe me, it's all going to end. The whole thing is going to end. Well, so many things. You're just castles in the sand. Yeah, it's only castles. Yeah, Neil Young. Uh, castles burning. It's only castles. That's why I always looked at the song. It has many meanings. Pick as you like, but yeah. So what's really important, right? And then when you come together like this, is what we think about. Because now you think about it from time to time, if not every day, if not throughout the day, off and on. But then you come here, everybody's thinking about it more than not because they're taking the time to come here. They've unplugged from everything that's important and so on and so forth. And they could die here of COVID. Oh my God. That's right. They're ready for it. Let's go together. We go. We're all friends. So in bhakti, we progress by sangha. So satam prasanga, mama vira samvido. When the devotees they get together and they're having festivals and talking about Krishna and so forth, that this produces like this rejuvenating. It's an elixir of Krishna Katha. And when we come in touch with it, this is what the verse says, and we get touched by it, and it causes faith to awaken, and then that faith grows. Sadhu from Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anarthana Vritti, Prem, step by step. Shraddha, Ruchir, Bhakti Manukramishti. So step by step, from Shraddha to Rati, all through. This is a very positive and friendly, like I say, in Gyan, you can't have any friends. In yoga, you can't, really understood, you can't have any friends. You got to be alone. You got to give up everything. In bhakti, you can have so many friends, right? In the here and in the hereafter as well, right? You can actually be attached to people who are also devotees. So how do we get there?
Speaking about Krishna, or like extensions of Krishna's body, how much Krishna needed.
Right. Yeah. We're talking about briefly, I believe, in pranay. Sukadev called it pranay. This kind of where there's no boundaries, and the external, the marginal characteristic of this pranay that's central to Sakyarasa. It's a technical term in Indian aesthetics. Pranay. It means like can I use your toothpaste brush? You don't even ask. And I can't find mine. I'll just use hers. Like that. That's pranay, something like that. You don't see any difference between yourself and the one that you love. There's a merging. It's not. It's like if you walk on the street, and somebody touches you, like that. Excuse me. But your own friend pushes you over, kicks you accidentally or whatever. It's like you kicked yourself with your own foot. You don't apologize. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is language is not there. I'm sorry. Thank you. Sridhar Maharaj used to say thank you. It kind of gets in the way. Right? It goes without. It's like that goes without saying. It's like don't turn into something formal here. Love is not full of rules and politeness and so forth. It's a oneness. Hmm? This is pranay. Hmm? So it has two sides, right? Like I said, it has its marginal characteristic and its Swarup characteristic, principal characteristic. So the marginal characteristic is this lack of hesitation. I was saying it earlier, like this kind of fearlessness in relation to Krishna, where otherwise reverence and respect would be due. It's not present, and so others will see it and go, "What is that?" The gods look down. What are they? That's God, and they're dealing with him like that. We just came after the Govardhana Lila. We crowned him as Govinda, Upendra, the chief of the gods. We gave him gifts and crown and flute and other things and vestments and so forth. And we bathed him, and the Govinda Kund was created, and we called him the God of gods. And then we flew off. And then his friends came and surrounded him and said, "Give me that crown." I'll take that flute. Like, and their gods are going like, "God, what is this place? What's going on here? What is?" So where where respect and reverence and regard and hesitation and so forth would be appropriate, it's just not there, right? This is the marginal characteristic of pranay, and it's described here. Sukadev's speaking about it in a sense. Now, the Swarup Lakshan of prema is intimacy, so that you can't have one without the other. It's the intimacy that's affording this external characteristic. There's kind of like, talking about it from two sides, right? We've kind of merged it in we're talking about it, but both are there. What's emphasized in Sakyaras is the marginal characteristic of pranay. And the reason for that is that it can't exist without the Swarupa Lakshan, the intimacy. But the reason is because pranay is something that is found in Sakirasa. There's no crossing of borders, boundaries there, right? There's no boundaries between friends, as I said earlier. But in parental love, there are boundaries that can't be crossed. In servile love, also, teacher and student, for example, there are boundaries that aren't crossed, right? So pranay is not an aspect, a feature, a development within the sthayi bhav, the dominant emotion of vatsalya or dasya. But it's central to Sakirasa. However, it also is prominent in Madhurya Rasa, where there is a sense of oneness, but there's also, a sense of difference. Like, you never say you love me. That's of course in this world, but even Krishna's wondering. It's like if there were, I don't know, 4-leaf clovers, he's looking for. She loves me. No, I don't know. And he needs reassurance from Subal. That's all right. I'll calm her down. She'll let you back in the grove. So that element is there. You're not going to find that in any measure in Sakirasa. But there are many nuances to intimacy within romantic life that you won't find in fraternal love, in romantic love as opposed. So that, for example, Ujjval Nilamani, which is about Rupa Goswami's book about Madhurya Rasa, he'll go into greater detail about the Swarup Lakshan of pranay and all the different types of it, varieties of it, nuances, and so on and so forth. Just a point of information for you. It's worth knowing. When, and the point being here with regard to Sakyaras, when it's the marginal characteristic of pranay that's being emphasized, it's not to say that the Swarup Lakshan is not present. It can't. You have to have the Swarup Lakshan for the marginal characteristic to manifest. It could be said, however, though, that because pranay manifests in the Sakyarasa sadhaka Hmm? Before prem, the marginal characteristic of it starts to show more prominently. The intimacy is less, but it's something there. Fearlessness is there, and so forth. So Sukadeva is marveling at this, and I've cited here in my verse, we said, and seeing this in his mind's eye, sage Suka in Sadhaka Deha on the Ganga exclaimed to the Raj, "O Raj, do you hear what I'm saying? Just see their pranay. Krishna seve, Krishna korai, apana sevana. Sevana. So this is the Bengali verse of Krishnadas Kaviraj, where he is defining pranay and the nature of Sakiras. And he's saying, sometimes they serve Krishna, sometimes Krishna serves them. So Krishna has gotten up in the midst of the sakas dancing and singing and entertaining him. And him and Balaram are sitting back like talent, judging, that's what they do. Okay, I think that's pretty good what he's done there. That's got a point there. And then in their enthusiasm, they get up and they dance for the sakas, and the sakas will grade their dancing and report and so forth. So such is the nature of this fraternal rapport. So these are a couple of, as I say, original verses, and then we turn now to the Bhagavatam itself. I know this is getting a little long here, but what time is it? Yeah, it's a little long. This could go for that much longer. So maybe we save this to tomorrow. What we're going to enter into is 3 or 4 verses from the Bhagavatam that continue the story here, if you will. And we turn to further descriptions of the play of Krishna. And given the time of year, given the age of Krishna and so forth, we'll turn within the context of that, just to give you a preview, also to the Dan Keli Leelas, which are the fact that they are occurring at this time is embedded in the Bhagavatam, or that they exist at all, is embedded in the Bhagavatam in these verses. Dan Keli is famous Leela narratives that predate the Goswamis, and 2 of which are found within Gaudiya Sampradaya by Rupa Goswami, by Raghunath Das Goswami. So we see that some of the interaction of Krishna with the gopis along with his friends in that, and other play and so on and so forth. And all this what it does is leads into the slaying of Pralambasur. So a few words tonight. Any questions? Yes.
Regarding the bewilderment of Balaram.
Regarding what?
The bewilderment, the vimohan of Balaram.
Yes.
So I'm wondering about that. How could it take a year for him to discover that? Like, especially now when we hear like how Krishna Balaram interacted with the cowherd boys. He was like a yuga, like a pair, relating with all the devotees. So how it took such a long time for Balaram to realize.
And he's omniscient, right?
Yeah.
How is it possible? Well, he answers that in the Bhagavatam. He says, this is Krishna's power. Therefore, the chapters are called Brahma Vimohan, but we could call it the Ram Mohan, Vimohan, Ram Vimohan, Ram Vimohan, because it's magnified by his statement at the end, and the fact that you're speaking about. Well, how didn't he know? He says, it's Krishna's power. Krishna's done. And how could that happen to me that I wouldn't know that? I mean, and these are my friends too. How did that happen? And for a whole year, it is very staggering. And such is the power of Krishna. That's the answer. He's extraordinary, even from Balaram's standpoint. Therefore, he's serving him constantly.
does Krishna have vimohana?
Is Krishna ever bewildered?
Yeah. Or how
All the
many
time.
vimohanas?
Yeah.
Yes.
Krishna is God bewildered. But in the context of the Leela, is he bewildered as well, right? Just the very Krishna himself is God bewildered by bhakti, if you will, conquered by bhakti, defeated, overwhelmed by bhakti. That's Krishna. In Brahman, as I sometimes say, Brahman is God, all pervasive, omniscient, all knowing, all present, ever present, all powerful, and so forth. But there, in that expression of the God head, there's no his internal Shakti is not functioning. When we come to Vaikuntha, well, we see that the internal Shakti of Krishna is functioning. Now there's differentiation. Now there's variety. There's beautiful forms that are unlimited, even as they have the appearance of being delimited, like the Dham, delimited in a certain geographical space it appears to be, even though it's beyond time and space and so forth, right? So this is the power of the Sarup Shakti, and that Sarup Shakti is more manifest. For example, in Braj, just to give a simple example, we say, well, in Vaikuntha there's one Lakshmi, and in Braj there's Lakshmi Sahasras, thousands of Lakshmis, right? And of course, the power of the Sarup Shakti is more manifest there, so Krishna is therefore more active. Brahman has become active, started to move, right, in Vaikuntha. But, Narayan retires, he has his sleep, but Krishna's like, can't go to sleep, he's up all night, even throughout the day and night practically, by the power of the Sarup Shakti. So God is more animated, the more the Sarup Shakti is manifest and present. It's giving, the form of Krishna is his Sarup Shakti. His body, his associates, extensions of his body as well. So, what was your question again? No, he had a second question. Right?
Yeah, the second question was is there certain instances, like just like we have Balaram Vimohan, when we could pinpoint the Vimohans of Krishna, like for example, looking in the pillar, I was thinking, and perhaps Subala.
So I'm talking about in a broader sense that Krishna is God bewildered. And you're asking, well, is that God bewildered? Does he ever get bewildered in the context of the Leela, like Balaram? Sure, yeah. He's that's also, of course, the power of bhakti. Yeah. His omniscience can come to the fore or can recede to the background. When or even when the cowards entered into Agasur, he thought, well, what's happening here? Yeah. Well, there's any number of instances there. It's a human-like Leela, so. Yes.
How it looks like to address Krishna as a friend on the Anishchita Bhajana Kriya level?
How does it look?
To address Krishna as a friend, to approach him as a friend on the Anishchita level?
Well, that's a fair question. I mean, it's the Sakyam as a sadhana, you can say, and has been said, is for more advanced sadhakas to think of Krishna as a friend in all respects. But I still have been saying to you that in a more extended sense, I think that people need a friend. People need friends, right? We need friends, and sometimes we invest ourselves in others as friends, and they turn out to disappoint us. Maybe we disappoint others too, But Krishna won't disappoint you. So I'm speaking in a broad sense. This will be good for you if you have this ideal. Like Prabhupada did, this will be good for you. Think of Krishna as a friend. That doesn't mean that you go in front of the deity and tell him, hey, could you get up a little later? It's too early in the morning. the heck are you doing? You know? No, we conduct ourselves appropriately with the deity and so forth, but we think he's my friend. I can count on him. I can rely on him. Think of in those respects, in a broader way in which you need a friend, someone you can go to and you can tell your whole heart to, and he listen and hear and he has good advice that he can give back. Just like so many devotees last night, they prayed, hope Guru Maharaj is okay. He's going to have to fly on a plane, and Namarasa was at my bedside last night. Oh, well, we going to, and in the morning I'm well. See? She approached her friend, and he can do those kind of things. So you have to think that he can do those things. It's true. That would be good for you to think like that. You may think everything that happens to me is happening in Krishna's arrangement. You may think, well, it's really karma. It's just you has not finished yet. Well, yeah. So, but it's better for your sadhana to think like this, to develop a sense of dependence on Krishna and to rely upon him and so forth. Pramod Puri Maharaj told me that every night before he go to bed, he would pray to Krishna and say, I did this today, I did that today, and then I did that, and then I did this. I should have done that, and so forth. And I was telling you, something that can, like that, something like that. Does that help? Yes. Yeah. Yes.
My question is regarding the morning readings these days. You said that Radha is living half of the year in her father's house, and half of the year in her husband's house. And I was wondering why is that, and also how come that when she is in Jatila's house, she's still allowed to cook and bring food to Yashoda Mai's house? Sorry for the silly question.
Well, so half the year, Radha will live with her mother-in-law and her husband, and half the year she'll live with her own parents, Vrishabhanupur. After all, Raj Vrishabhanu is like second, so to speak, to Nanda Maharaj in terms of prominence among the cowherds, a very prestigious family and so forth. So Jatila, her mother-in-law, and makes room for that, right? Now, with regard to staying with her husband, she doesn't really stay with her husband. And the reason for that is that he sleeps in the cowshed. Now, the reason for that is that he says, well, I'm a protector of cows, so, I should be there. But the inside story is he's actually a eunuch, see? He doesn't want anybody to know. That's a fact. He's an embarrassing fellow. He's very embarrassed. And it's so inappropriate as a husband for Radharani. Of course, he's Krishna manifesting himself in that way, so he can do that. So she doesn't really stay with her husband at all. But your question is, well, why did she stay one time there, part-time there, and what's the other part of it?
The second question was, even when she's staying in Jatila's house, how come that Jatila lets her cook and bring food to Krishna and Yashoda's house?
Yeah. She allows, it's rather odd, her daughter-in-law to cook for the son of another mother. But that mother, of course, is the queen of Vrindavan, and her son is the prince. As ill-behaved as he is, he's from a rich family. He's very, he's a little prince, and he's spoiled to death. And well, you got to deal with that. That's the kingdom we live in, right? Nanda's our king. That's his kid. Okay, so but still, that's a little bit much, right? That my daughter-in-law has to come home and cook for him every day. But there's a number of ways this has been explained very charmingly, but the kind of central to all of them is the fact that the sage Durvas, who appears in the Braj Lila every now and then, um, um, he, like for example in Gopal Tapani Upanishad, they offer Radha offered she's called Gandharvika there. Gandharvika offers the sweet rice to Durvasa on the other side of the Jamuna, along with her Gopi associates, her girlfriends, Sakis, and they ask, what does it mean that Krishna is a brahmachari? Because Krishna had told them they wanted to. Krishna had told them he was a brahmachari, and they said, "What are you talking about? We just were like out all night with you here." And how did they say? He told them to talk to Durvasa, I think. And Durvasa was on the other side of the Jamuna, and he said, "Just say to the Jamuna, Krishna is a brahmachari, and the waters will part, and you'll be able to cross over." So when they got to the other side, they said, "What's this about, sage? Krishna's a brahmachari. What's going on with this?" So he explains some of the philosophy there, and he likes the sweet rice very much, and I think he blesses the cooking of Radha. I think that must be where this comes from, this story. Although the details of him blessing Radha, I don't think are found in the Upanishad itself. And so whatever she cooks, that will taste like nectar, and it would be the best possible thing that you could give your child to eat. So Yasoda is like really loves Krishna, and the power of her love is enough to intimidate Jatila into allowing her daughter, who happens to be the one girl in the village that has this particular benediction, you have to allow your daughter to come to my house. I'll take care of her and everything, don't worry about that, and cook for this prince. He is the heir to the throne. We've been waiting for a long, long time before we could finally say, Nanda has a son, Nanda has a son, tell the world. They were very old, Nanda and Yashoda, and had not had a son. And the reason was because every time they got together to conceive, Nanda thought, "Oh, I will conceive a son, and he will be more beautiful than God, more beautiful than Narayan." And he thought, "I am crazy." And Yashoda would think the same thing. And then they'd lose interest. And then they got together and shared notes, and they said, "Hey, we're both thinking the same thing. What are we going to do?" And so they got some advice from a sadhu. They performed a vrat for 1 year. And after the year, Narayan appeared and said, "Go ahead, and your son will be more beautiful than me," something like that. So they had the son, but they were old at the time. And so while the Braj was everyone was completely happy and fulfilled, there was this one problem. The king doesn't have a son. The king doesn't have a son. So with the birth of Krishna, then everything is perfect in Braj, and Yashoda's love for him has no bounds. I mean, no one, her Vatsalya Prem exceeds everyone's in Braj put together. And so the force of her Prem is fostered onto Jatila, and she said, "Look, your daughter she got this special benediction, so she should be able to come and cook for my son every day." And have you heard? Have you heard? Have you heard? He has friends, Krishna. She's talking to Jatila, and according to the friends, anyway, there are demons out there in the forest. They come from Kamsa. And my son defeats them. Now, I don't really believe that stuff, but I'm using that now to her, right? She's thinking. And therefore, he needs very special food, right? Blessed food. And now your daughter has the power to cook that. What did Mangal say? We need a third birth, and that comes from tasting Radha's cooking. And anybody who says, no, thank you, I don't want any more, is a big offender. So something like that. Right? There's some other stories, but that's the central point. Okay, so I think we stop there. Gaud Premanande or Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripasindubhe Pacha. Pati Tanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavi. Nantakuti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai.